In Exodus 33, Moses said to the Lord, Lord, show me your glory. And the Lord responded by revealing the nature of his character, right? The most glorious thing about the Lord is who he is. So in Exodus, he tucks Moses in the cleft of the rock, and then he declares his glory by saying, this is who I am, right? He gives his name. Adonai, Adonai, the Lord. That's his name, his reputation. You might say it's his brand. And then he proceeds to proclaim who he is. He says, God of compassion, right? He leads with God of compassion. It's a word, rachum, that's a derivative of the Hebrew word for womb. So the Lord leads his self-description with compassion that would be comparable to the compassion a mother has for her baby. He says, God of compassion, God of graciousness, chanan, favor. He's a favor-giving God. That's what he does. He says, slow to anger. And the Hebrew word for anger is nostrils, right? It takes him a long time to flare his nostrils. It's not even that it takes him a long time to act in anger. It takes him a long time to get frustrated. He is slow to flare his nostrils. And the Lord continues to describe himself. He says, compassionate, gracious, slow to flare his nostrils, and abounding, overflowing in love and truth, right? Showing love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity and rebellion and sin. And it's not until this point in his self-description, right, about 7 attributes deep into it, that he mentions punishment. He says, but not leaving the guilty unpunished. He's a God who deals with the guilty, who is just. But even then, he graciously limits the long-term impact of their sin to the 3rd and the 4th generations, which stands in contrast to the impact of his overflowing love, which is to 1,000 generations. He says, this is who I am. That's my glory. That's what my name, that's my reputation. This is what I'm all about, what my brand is all about. Right? Isn't that amazing? See, when a lot of people think of the God of the Hebrew Scriptures or the Old Testament, they think of some angry version of him. They think of someone who's just quick-tempered, ready to strike, who wants to destroy. But how does God describe himself? He's slow to anger, overflowing in love. When he calls his people to repent from sin, he wants us to be genuine, but he actually desires to withhold judgment. He says in Joel 2, he says, rend your heart, not your garments, and turn to the Lord because he's gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in love, and he's ready to relent or to hold back the judgment we deserve. In Ezekiel 33, he says to this, he says, look, I have no pleasure. I don't want the death of the wicked. What I want is that the wicked turn from his evil way and he live. And then he says, return to me from your wicked ways. Why should you die? That's the heart of God. That's who he is. That's his character. That's what he wants the world to see, that he's compassionate and gracious and slow to anger and abounding in love and truth. And he's righteous and just. That's what his name points to. That's who he is. And so we should be, when we say his name, that's what we should be pointing to. And we're called to imitate him, right? To imitate his character, to make his name known, to make his character known. So let's do that today. Let's make the name of the Lord known and let's make him smile.